Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everybody. Yes. Welcome to our newest webinar from Pointerpro. I think that, we're going to have people rolling in at the beginning. It's 4:01 on the dot. Well, of course, European time. Good morning to everybody in America. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The session will be recorded anyways, so if people roll in late, they can always revisit the start. Welcome. The name of today's webinar is How to Boost Your Business with Distribution Portal. Let's go ahead and get started. First, who are we? To those of you who I know already, hello. I see some familiar names in the list. My name is Stacy. I'm a senior account executive at Pointerpro. I've been with the company for about 3 years now. So I'm working with organizations to see if there's a fit between our software and their needs. So I will be hosting today, and thankfully I have a partner.
Hi, my name is Mathias. I'm the owner of the consultancy firm Contra & Coffee for about 7 years. We do a lot of very technical consulting, mainly development, CTO roles, development leads, these kind of things. We're a team of 15 people today.
Okay, welcome. Together we will be talking about a new product that has launched last month in April as a part of the Pointerpro software, which is of course the distribution portal. We have it in the name. But before we start, I'm just going to go through the agenda so we know what's coming. First, we're going to introduce the distribution portal, talk a bit about why and what and how of this new product. And then we are going to ask the question, how would you use the distribution portal in your business? And then talk about a few use cases and best practices for how we have foreseen, and have already seen people use it in their businesses. And then, the highlight, which is the demo. We'll try to get to that as soon as possible. I know that that's why people are here, is to see really what this product looked like. And then finally, we will leave time at the end for a question and answer session. The webinar in total will be 40 minutes. We have about 37 left. Sounds like a long time, but I think it's going to go by pretty fast. Yeah, okay. But first, before we do anything else, just quick little engagement here. We would like to know, what industry are you in? There should be a poll that pops up if everything is going according to plan for you to answer this question. Let's see here. This is our first time doing a webinar, by the way, so let's see if this goes right.
Yeah, they can answer along the way. So I think
you can also continue.
Move forward, and then we revisit the poll as the answers come in.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine. Yeah. Okay,
we're going to do it like that then. Okay, because it'll be interesting to see where everybody, or from what perspective everybody has. Okay, going on to the next slide. I'm going to turn to you. Yeah. Why the heck did we develop or create this distribution portal?
Well, I think what's interesting to mention, which I should have mentioned in the introduction, is the fact that I'm working as a consultant at Pointerpro myself as CTO for the moment, which is super interesting because it gives me the both side perspective, having a consultancy firm on one hand and working as a CTO at Pointerpro for the moment. What we started noticing as the platform becomes more and more popular and people become more and more successful with it, is that scaling becomes somewhat tricky and people start, not really struggling, but start looking for workarounds on how do I distribute my assessments, how do I invite people at scale and everything that goes with that. For example, how do I send reminders to people that have not opened or have not answered yet or have not completed yet, stuff like this. So the whole concept of being successful with your assessment and being able to distribute it at scale became somewhat of a challenge, and that's the very question we try to answer with the distribution portal.
Okay, yeah, and as you can imagine, a lot of our users are, they're the brains behind it. They're writing the maturity assessments. They're putting in the work to create the content for the reports. But then at the moment that they're distributing it within larger organizations or to a larger client pool, maybe you don't want to be spending your hours, maybe your billable hours, doing the distribution work, sending out those email invites. Maybe there's somebody else that can do the distribution for you. And that's where this portal comes into play as well.
Yeah, it's really centered around this whole automating the tedious work of getting it out there, following up, and making sure that everybody gets it, everybody started doing it, and that you actually receive the insights. That is really the key thing you're looking for with your assessment.
And a key word there is automation, because that's where we started with Pointerpro, is automating the feedback part of the assessment process. So, the tool allows you to create your assessments with scoring, with logic, etc., but then also automates the creation of that personalized feedback report. So this distribution portal is just taking that next step. Okay, now the report has been generated, but how are we going to get that assessment and get that report to a wider audience?
Yeah, indeed.
Okay, going on to the next slide. Okay, time for a second poll. And this one should be interesting because it will help us kind of craft some of the conversation further on. We'd like to know exactly, well, maybe not exactly, but in general, how you would use the distribution portal in your business specifically. There's a few different answer options here, including, selling them online, distributing them internally to your employees within your own organization, or perhaps giving portal access, giving distribution power, let's say, to your customers, or other, of course. There are many ways that it could be used. But we're interested to see these results because then we're going to talk about a few of these use cases on the next slide.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting for us to gain a little more insight on what made you attend the webinar, or what really got your attention thinking about the distribution portal and all the communication we've sent out around it already. As of course, for us, the key challenge now is making sure that we can meet as many implementations as possible, or use cases as possible. We'll talk about a few of them in a minute to give you some best practice and use cases. But of course, if there's other things you have on your mind, it's super interesting to discuss these later on.
I'm looking at the results as they come in. The biggest one so far is giving portal access to customers to self-sufficiently distribute your assessments. That sounds about right. We have some people that will sell online with the web shop. Well, we have some in all of the different categories, to be honest, which is kind of what we expected.
Yeah.
Great. Well, then I'm going to move on to the next slide. Thank you for everybody's input. To talk about a few of these use cases. And I did list the customer portal access first because that seems to be, from conversations I've had already, one of the largest use cases. So the idea here is, okay, maybe you're a consultant, maybe you're not, maybe you're in another industry. I'm thinking about coaching as well. I see some labels from some of our customers that are using the portal. They're in business consulting and in coaching as well. So the idea is that you're already working with an organization or a person, a coach, if you're creating assessments and selling them to coaches, for example, and you want to, as a part of your offering to them, give them their own power to upload their own contact lists of respondents. So maybe the coaches or the businesses that they work with, so that you, as the administrator, as the creator, the content creator of the assessment and report, you're not needing to upload the contacts of your customer. So it's kind of a 3-level sort of thing. So then the coach can upload their own contacts, for example, send out the invitations, and then use the portal to view the data and the reports from their customers or their coaches.
It's really about facilitating your customer's customer. Right? Yeah. You help them distribute the assessments or the assessments or the surveys that you've created yourself, and that your customer is now delivering to his customers. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
In the first use case, having that 3-layer, as you say.
And that's indeed one of the pain points that we had heard that triggered the development of this product is just, I don't want to be the one as the assessment creator that is sending out the invites. I have, there's somebody in between. It's my customer that needs to distribute the invites to the assessment.
Yeah, especially when these things become successful, when there's really a lot of contacts, a lot of people that need to reach these things. That's where it really, I think, that's where the distribution portal really adds its biggest value.
Yeah. The next one to mention is when you're distributing assessments internally within an organization. Now, we see this especially in some global organizations that are using Pointerpro, but also you might just have a big office wherever you're at, and you have an assessment that needs to go out to everybody in the sales team, everybody in the marketing team, everybody on the technical team, but you and maybe you're the HR manager at your organization. But you're not the ones that needs to see the assessment results. Maybe the sales manager needs to see the results from their sales team. Okay, then you want to give the power to that sales manager, to that marketing manager, et cetera, to send out the invites to their own team and be able to access those results, the reports and the data from the assessments within the portal itself. We see this with one of our customers, the Scouts, the World Organization of Scouts, no, the World Bureau of Scouts Organization. They have regional offices across the world, and the regional managers need to be able to distribute assessments within their region. And so that's where the distribution portal comes in for them. And then finally, the third use case, and once again, these are just 3 big buckets. So there's definitely other use cases, but assessment monetization. So this is when you want to offer assessments to the public on your website, for example, and be able or give the ability for people to come to the website, purchase access to an assessment or more than one assessment, and then distribute it themselves to their networks. So whether it be to their employees within their organization or to their clients even, but then you as the assessment creator, the one that's selling the assessments, don't even need to get involved at all in the process. The idea is with some integration work, which we're going to talk about in a moment, people can come to your site, buy the assessments, access the portal, distribute, view results all in one without you having to pick up a finger. I do have an example to show at this moment. So there's two examples, logos below. KnowledgeWorks is one of our customers that does this or will be doing this eventually with the distribution portal. And then also SureLaws Group. Both of these companies are selling assessments online on their website. But I'm going to switch the screen right now to show you a landing page on SureLaws Group, it's the Compass assessment. So different terminology, but I need to press share.
Yeah.
I'm going to do everything correctly, I swear. Here, share my entire screen. Yeah. And here we go. So, there we go. So this is the landing page for the one of the landing pages they have on their site for some of their assessments. The Compass assessments is what they're offering. If I scroll down, they give a little explanation of why take this assessment specifically. They give a sample report, but then down here at the bottom, you see that they're offering to sell either a single one of their TFK indicator, which is a single assessment, or the option to buy a 4-pack with all 4 of their different Compass indicators. So these are the names of the group of assessments. So they show the pricing, and they have these buttons to buy now. Now, theoretically, with the distribution portal, I could click buy now, enter in my details, enter in my payment, submit payment, and then automatically receive the email invitation to be invited to the portal. To go ahead and either take the single assessment or to distribute it to others, or to distribute the 4 Compass indicators. So this is just an example of what a web shop would look like. But then, the question that follows is, okay, so how the heck do I set this up? How do I get the distribution portal connected to my website? At which time I'm going to turn to my friend over here who knows a lot more about technical things than I do. Stop sharing.
All right. Let's go back to them.
Okay. And next screen there.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's not rocket science, right? Or it's not super tricky to do. It's just very important to have the correct components in the right place, as usual. We've tried to visualize it on the screen for the moment, where on the left-hand side you have your web shop, like the one we've just shown, for example, where you buy products or an assembly of products. You can also buy a kit of multiple assessments. That's no problem at all. At which point you will fill out a shopping cart of some sort. You will create an account on the site or on the web shop system, whether that's something like Shopify or whatever, it doesn't really matter. You obviously need an integration with a payment provider so that people are actually capable of paying for your assessment, which at this point actually doesn't have anything to do with Distribution Portal just yet. It's just getting your basics in order. And at that point, once people have bought your assessment or your products, there will be an integration through an integration provider. So there's a little piece of middleware, the small cloud in the middle, which is usually Zapier or Make, that allows you to create a workflow, which will then connect to our Pointerpro platform, and then create the customer account, send invitation emails, do the whole piece of magic on our end, basically. And that's how your customer in the end is capable of distributing their assessment end to end. Or that's how you will be able to distribute the assessment end to end and facilitate your customer's customer. So that's how this will work. So it's important to have these three things, or the three dots connected, so to speak. But all in all, it's fairly straightforward and hardly rocket science.
Yes. Well, I can imagine people would still need some help.
Yeah, for sure. As always, we take great pride in trying to understand each and every use case. What's your plan? What are you trying to achieve? Because of course, this is a visual representation on what it looks like in general. But of course, every system has its specificities, which are important. So of course, getting the use case exactly right and making sure that we understand upfront what it is you're trying to accomplish is really critical to make this work. Yeah, absolutely.
But we can help. That's what's also good to know.
We can definitely help. Absolutely. I think it's super important to highlight upfront. Like I said, the use case, get it all mapped out, and then make sure that we can tailor the implementation to you. So.
Yes. Okay. Well, and I'm sure there might be questions about this, but you can send them in the chat now or at the end during the Q&A, and we can try to tackle them. By the way, if your question doesn't get to, or if we don't get to it later on, we will be able to reach out to you afterwards. We can save the questions and make sure that everything's clear. But that being said, I think now it's time to go to the part that a lot of people came here for, which would be the demonstration. So yes. I have a slide to tell everybody we're about to demo. So I'm once again going to share my screen. Drum roll, please. Okay, here we are. So I'm going to do a quick refresh just to make sure we're live here. Okay. So I am starting off right now, logged in to the distribution portal as what we would call, or as what we call in the customer zone. So we have three main zones, the admin zone, where you, if you're the Pointerpro user, are creating assessments reports, and you're giving some permissions to people, including customers who are logged into the portal. Then when I have been invited to the portal, this is what I see when I first log in. I see a welcome message. So theoretically, my name here is John Smith. We see my initials up here at JS. So it says, welcome, John. And then there's a short message below it. Welcome to the demo environment of the distribution portal. Click here for your introduction. So this text here can be set by you as a sort of intro to any of your customers that are using the portal. It's important to note, though, that a customer doesn't actually need to be a customer. That's the term that we've given it because in general, people are using it with customers, but this might be, going back to my example of sales manager, marketing manager, et cetera, within an organization, they would also be in the customer role. Now, if the
person you're servicing, basically. Yeah.
If I click here, I can also see a longer intro to that customer. I've written in here, this is where you can give your customers or colleagues some instructions on how to get started. You can include images and clickable links in here. So this is just, once again, a welcome message to them. But there is the opportunity to give even more detail on how the user, the customer in this case, can use the portal. And that is up here in the top right. We have this eye icon. And this is the customer's own version of the help guide. So for all of my Pointerpro users that are watching this webinar, you're very familiar with the nice help guide that our team has put together that takes you through every single feature and functionality of the platform. Now, the help guide in the customer zone is something that you as the admin can actually create for them. That being said, we've also put together a lot of content that we can share with you, which we're actually looking at right now to use as a baseline, but you can make changes as the admin to this help guide. So really tailor it for your customers, use the sort of terminology you want to use. But then they have some help as they're navigating the portal.
I think that's the key takeaway is the fact that you can tailor it to your needs. We provide the basics because obviously writing these things takes time. We have an entire support team maintaining these things. So that's why it's very important for us to provide the general baseline already. And then obviously you can tailor and tweak if you see the need, but don't start writing it out entirely.
Yeah, it would take a while. So when you first log into the platform, I see first the campaigns page. That's kind of the home screen. Right at the bottom, I see a list of the existing campaigns that I've already sent out. So campaigns are how I'm distributing the assessments. Of course, when I first log in, there won't be any campaigns here yet. But the campaigns that I do have a certain status tied to them. So we see that my first two here have already been sent. This one, the third, the psychometric assessment, is in draft mode, whereas many of the others down here have already ended. I've sent out a lot of campaigns already, as it seems. So these different statuses I can filter by, so I can see all of the campaigns that I have in draft mode that haven't been sent out yet. I can see the ones that are scheduled, which I don't have any that are scheduled and have not been sent, but I have quite a few that have already ended, as you can see here. But if I go back to the main screen, I see all of them. Now, when I want to create a new campaign, we have this very large create a new campaign button here at the top. So I'm going to create a campaign with you here now today. What I will do is I will title it, let's say management self-assessment invite, because I'm going to send out that assessment right now. And then I'm going to be able to select the questionnaires that you want to send. Now, if you've only given access to one assessment to your customer, then you're only going to see one assessment listed here. But as you can see, you can give them access to more than one assessment. I'm going to click the management self-assessment and just send out that one today. Yes, I can send out multiple at one time, but I'm just going to send one. Then the next step here, maybe I should pause. Okay, on the right-hand side, we have a box here with 5 different steps. And in fact, this is usually where I start. And I say to people, look, there's 5 steps here. The customer has to follow these 5 steps. They cannot deviate. They cannot skip steps. They cannot send out a campaign without doing one of those steps. So the idea is to make it a bit dummy-proof, right? Mm-hmm. Because these people are, you might not know them that well. They might be your customer, but they might be somebody off the street that's buying access to your assessments to distribute them. So we want to make it as easy as possible for them to do that. So if I start again, the first thing that they do is they set a campaign title and they select the questionnaires that they want to send. Okay, then I can go to the next step. Now I'm selecting the recipients. So the people that are being invited, I can either select a contact list or individual contacts that I've already uploaded. If I'm very well prepared, I've already uploaded my contacts. But if I am not very well prepared, I can go ahead and create new contacts or new contact lists on the fly. So if I click here, I can create a new contact. I can either add them manually by putting in their first name, last name, some extra info, and their email address. or I can upload them as a CSV file. That's actually very useful if I'm uploading an entire list of contacts, actually, because if I create a new list and I want to, first I need to title my list. I'll call it the example list.
Especially when you start doing this at scale, if you have an assessment that you want to distribute to 5 people, you're going to be more than happy to do it manually.
Yeah.
If you have 500 people, that's going to be a little more tricky. So then you're going to be very grateful for the CSV file.
Exactly.
Make sure to use the example.
Yeah.
That makes your life a lot easier.
Yeah. So they'll be able to download the example, and then it has like the structure all listed there. And you need at least a name and an email address, and then a contact can be created. Now, important to note as well, when I'm uploading or when I'm creating contacts, there is the option to create an account for this contact. If you enable this, then your contacts will actually be able to log into their own version of the distribution portal, where they see a list of assessments that they've been given access to or they've been invited to. And they'll also be able to see their results there once they have responded, and be able to access their old reports as well. We'll get to that section. That's the contact zone after we finish with the customer zone. If you do not, by the way, create a account for that contact, which you do not have to, you don't need to make it as complex, let's say, you can just send the link to the assessment to that respondent via email, which is what the campaign does, is it sends out an email to the people that are invited to take the assessment. So they don't need to use the portal. They can just access it via email. So at the moment, I have one list selected. It's called my example list. Of course, there's actually not any contacts in there. Maybe I'll just add an existing contact from my contact list. Maybe I'm going to add Betty White. Maybe I'll add Bruce Springsteen as well if they're going to be invited. Okay, great.
Maybe a small note that's also interesting to know, given the fact that you can use manual, you can also use a combination. So you can rely both on a list and create manual contacts. Maybe small detail, but not unimportant, is that the system will also filter out duplicates. So if you had people in a large list that you received and you accidentally also added them manually, the system will just detect it and send it out only once.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. It has these checks. Now we need to decide who the email will be sent from. So you could set your own name as the sender name. Okay, Stacy's sending it, and I can put in a reply to email. So they're going to receive this invitation, but if I want them, or a lot of people do this where they reply to emails that don't really have anybody on the other end. This way, any replies will come to me, and then the person, or then as a default and kind of as a best practice, you'll want to send it from this anonymous email address. However, if your domain, if you've verified your domain, you can send it from that. So it could be sent from stacy@pointerpro.com if I've verified that domain. So if you're, distributing this internally, it can come from sales@pointerpro.com, for example. Which is, probably, and it's something where your customers can also send it out from your domain if you've verified it. But as a standard, you can just send it from the generic domain and then go on to the next step. And this is where you craft that email body, or your customers craft the email body text. Now you see here, I've reached this stage and it's already pre-populated. That is because as the administrator of the Pointerpro account, you have the ability to craft the email template for your customers to make it easier for them. Because, for all my Pointerpro users out there, you're familiar with the variables that we offer. When a customer is crafting their email, they can choose to use a few of these variables. It's a very limited list, as we can see here, such as the first name, the last name, and the link to the survey, for example. Within that body text. But if you just give it to them, they don't have to think about it. They can also set the subject line in here. They'll be able to send a test email to their address if they'd like, but then they go to the next step. And the second to last step is to schedule in when you want that campaign to be sent out. So it can either be sent as soon as possible, which would be the top of the next hour, or you can, once again, if you're on top of things, you can plan in advance. And maybe I don't want this campaign to go out until the 10th of May. And I want it to go out at, not 3 a.m., maybe at 10 a.m. And then you set an end date for your campaign. So at this moment, the links will go, or they will become disabled, and the unused user invitations will be credited back to your account. That's another detail. The admins will be able to grant a certain number of invites to your customers for inviting them to take assessments and download reports. But if those invites aren't used, then that customer can use it later on. Yeah,
meaning if they never actually took it, you get credited. This also ties into the statuses we saw on the overview screen, by the way. Now we're still in draft, we're creating it. Once you hit schedule, of course, it becomes scheduled. When the end date is passed, it becomes passed. It says ended as a status, so this maps to that.
Yeah, so yeah, that's down here. I can either save it as a draft or really schedule it in so that on the 10th, it's going to be sent. And now the last step, because I see that my campaign has indeed been scheduled, which is great. But then if I want to add reminders, I can do so. So I can schedule these in advance and say, okay, exactly 1 week after the assessment is sent out, I want a reminder to be sent, or 1 month, or a custom date as well. But I'll do 1 week. I can either send the reminder to all the contacts that were invited, which might make sense or might not, depending upon your case, or to those who didn't respond yet, or those who didn't even open the email yet. And once again, I can set up that email right here, saying,
This is exactly what we mentioned in the very beginning. This is the whole paper trail of following up on people that have not responded yet, etc. That becomes very tedious when you start doing this at scale, and when you start to be successful with your assessments. This is something that will be help you save a great deal of time.
Indeed. So now I've scheduled in my reminder, and I can add extra reminders too, by the way. Now, it's scheduled. I can revert it to draft. If I go back to my campaign's homepage, I see that this campaign has been scheduled. Now, the other tabs that we see at the top of the portal take me to, first of all, my contacts. So this is, once again, if I'm, very organized, I can upload my contacts in advance. This is something I probably wouldn't do. But once I have created a list, I can also edit these lists. I have a lot of lists with 0 contacts in them because I constantly am demoing this. But here we go. I can edit or manage the contacts within my lists with these buttons here. So I see that me and Bruce are in list number 1. I can add new contacts to this list or remove them from this list at any time. If I go into the questionnaires tab, I can see a list of the questionnaires that I have access to. You see that there's a little description below these assessments as well, to give your customers a bit more info about them. And from this questionnaires tab, I can go directly into the results of these different assessments. And I can also see the number of invites that I've used for each of these, because like I said, the admin gives permissions, gives a certain number of invites. If I go into the results from the management self-assessment, for example, I can see all of these different responses. I can download the individual report from each of these responses. If I select them all, I can also download all the select reports all at once together in bulk. If I get rid of these,
I think the key takeaway here is that the campaigns flow or the one we started, the screen we started, is actually the beating heart of the distribution portal. It's like you said, when you're as organized as you are, or not, depending on how you look at it, it's very important that you can take every step, that you can fully create an end-to-end campaign, even if you didn't set up anything, if you didn't create any contacts, if you didn't, you can pretty much just start creating your campaign and do all the rest that is necessary in these 5 steps that we've just seen. Or you can be super organized and do it up front through the contact screen, for example. That's perfectly possible.
And as you can see, you can also go to the results from a campaign straight from their campaign if it's already been sent out, of course. There's no results yet for the draft or the scheduled campaigns. Now, important, and we're running a little bit behind, but I'm going to show the contact zone very quickly before we go into the Q&A. So this was the customer zone. This is like the first level of the distribution portal. But if I do want my contacts or my respondents to be able to access the portal, to access their own version of the portal, well, this is what this contact zone looks like. Oh, and my tab got really weird right now. There it is.
You can grab it there.
Sorry, guys. I'm going to go full screen here. Okay, so theoretically, this is not theoretically, really, this is what it looks like if I log in as a contact that's been invited to the contact zone. So I will have my own username and password as well. And I see a list here of questionnaires to take. So questionnaires I've been invited to take. Once again, it's all 3 of those assessments that we saw before. I can see the start and end date of each of these. So the first 2 here are ending tomorrow. This one is ending on the 18th. So I know how much time I have to take them. But then I can also see my previous responses from these assessments. Now, important to note, I know some people are like, need to limit the responses per questionnaire. So, all of my contacts should only be able to take the competency assessment 1 time. Well, that's possible. You can set it up that way, in which case, as soon as I take the competency assessment, I will see it in the previous responses section, but it will be gone from my questionnaires to take section because I've only been given one
usage.
Yeah. Indeed. But I have taken the competency assessment. The last time I took it was today, and I can see it here. I know that I've taken the management self-assessment a few times, though. Yes, here. I took it twice today to prepare for this webinar. And I can download my reports directly from here. So, especially if you have an assessment that should be taken quarterly, for example, by your employees, they can see their previous responses here and then click here to access the assessment itself. My response limit has been exceeded. There we go. Okay, we're only having 3 minutes left. So I'm going to stop sharing and go back to my screen. Here we go. And we see now it's time for the Q&A. I'm going to go over to the chat and see if there's any questions here. Everyone, there we go. Can customers download a reporter report directly after filling out the survey? That's a big yes, indeed. You can have a download button on the final screen of the assessment for them to immediately download the report. That means that the contact zone isn't necessary for you to use if you're only sending out one assessment and you want the respondent to immediately access their report. Indeed. Can customers access, I think is what you mean, Ella, can customers access results of the questionnaire if they were not given an invite with the create account? Do you mean the contact? So the respondent to the questionnaire? I think that's what she means. Yeah. So the contact, if you set it up, just like the previous question, you can set it up where they're able to download their report immediately from the final screen of the assessment. So then the contact zone isn't necessary, no. Which is required at that point. If you want people that have not been given the create account, you need to make sure that they can actually download it at the very end. Otherwise, it will be tricky. Correct. I see a question from Hassan. Does creating an account also make it possible to stop doing the assessment halfway and continue finishing it later while saving the answers given already? That's a completely separate feature. So that feature exists within Pointerpro. As long as the respondent is accessing the assessment from a unique link. So if you're sending out the link to the survey with the unique ID, for example, and you have that setting turned on, they don't need an account either. They can just go back to that email that you sent to them, inviting them to take the assessment and use the same link again. Yeah, indeed. But it's a separate feature to the distribution portal. Yes. That's important. Yeah. Do you want to take this one? How can a customer create a campaign and then send it to candidate each time they recruit? That's actually an interesting one. The saved campaign to reuse it. I think we've talked about being able to copy campaigns. Yeah, indeed. It also depends a bit on the flow you want to take here. And remember me talking about the use cases, and that was more the web shop use case, but it actually applies in general to the distribution portal. The first thing that it brings to mind to me is, okay, how is the distribution portal or Pointerpro as a platform going to know that you recruited someone? Will we have some kind of integration there, which is super interesting to explore. In general, it should be a big yes that you can actually set it up. I would be super interested to discuss, okay, then how do we approach this? Is there an integration with an HR platform or something like this? Yeah. Yeah. The one at the top also seems interesting because it's talking about white labeling, it seems. Okay. So what about white labeling, not only your own branding
So it's very important to understand that the entire distribution portal is capable of white labeling. So going from colors to logos to the sender emails, the addresses, URLs, etc.
Yeah. So you saw a very generic like blue icon, but that can be your company logo, and your customers will have, if you white label it, no vision of Pointerpro or the word distribution portal. I mean, it can be really branded towards your company. Can you edit the look and information of each distribution portal for each customer, or is it one portal for every customer? As what we see normally is that, if you're a user of Pointerpro, you're white labeling the distribution portal under your brand, and your customers are accessing it and they're seeing your branding. However, it is possible to add white labeled versions of the distribution portal for different customers. You would have to verify the domain for each of their domains and do that setup, and then they could use it. But as a standard, it's usually white labeled towards the Pointerpro admin's domain.
Yeah, it also becomes quite, well, not cumbersome, but it involves quite a bit of work. This means that your customers need to go through the same process. So the real the de facto use case of the distribution portal is that it is being white labeled to your branding and is being used as such, because it's also your assessments that people are accessing or purchasing in some cases. So I think it's also very important, not only from a technical point of view, but also from a functional point of view. What do people expect to see if they purchase one of your assessments? It makes a lot of sense that it looks and feels the way your company is branded.
But I do have, I already know a Pointerpro user already that has had this question, and they say, okay, I'm working with a very large organization and I would like to white label the distribution portal I'm the one creating the assessments in Pointerpro, but I want to white label the distribution portal specifically to their company's domain because they're going to be using it internally to distribute. So it can go either way. I'm seeing a question from Deborah that I've been waiting because I know somebody's going to ask this. Is this going to be bundled as a standard feature, or is this an upsell? If so, how much will it cost? So it is a new plan. So the distribution portal is a feature that is available with our new distributor plan. It is sort of the next plan up from Reporter. That's the plan that exists right now that allows you to create assessments and reports. But then the distributor plan will include everything below it. So all of the Reporter features and functionalities, but also the distribution portal as a part of that plan. So indeed, the cost is kind of, it's not standardized. Everybody's using it in different ways. That being said, we do have models for different use cases, such as the 3 that I gave today. So it's something that you would want to talk to somebody from Pointerpro from our.
I think it's really the key takeaway here is the use case and what is your intention, and making sure that it is actually the right tool for the job. So that's why we've mentioned it a couple of times. Understanding the use case and what it is you're trying to accomplish with it will greatly determine complexity, at some point even pricing, or maybe support that you need or guidance that you might need. Integrations are a very evident discussion to have with a product like this. So that's why it's super important to make sure that we get all the facts straight up front to make sure that we can help you get it set up properly.
I see a question from Tom. Hey, Tom. Can the output Reporter be customized by the customer on their own, logo, contact info, etc.? No, that is not possible. So you as the admin, the Reporter or the distributor admin are the one that has the ability to edit the content, the logos, etc. for the assessments. However, if you were to do create copies of the assessment and brand it with the logos from your customer, you could give each customer that access to that separate assessment within the distribution portal. I'm trying to see if there's something else. Yes, Robert, this is what used to be called the Assessment Center. I think that's what you were going to say. That was the name we were calling it before we relaunched the new version of it. And we said it's the distribution portal now.
Yeah, there's a very small question. Can you share the recorded session later? Yeah, absolutely. That's
Definitely.
something that will happen for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think yeah. We've
covered
most
a
of them.
lot of these. There's a new one. Wait, okay, that was Robert saying thank you. You're welcome. Integration possible with Stripe. I'm seeing that question. Yes, there is integration possible with Stripe. Hey, Scott, if you use branching logic in a single assessment, can parts of the branching use distributor and some not use it? Or do these need to be separate assessments? Scott, I saw your email earlier. You asked this question also. You would have to create separate assessments, indeed. So then you give the assessment that is logical for that manager or that employee or that company. You give them access to that one. Indeed, the branching won't work there. Okay, we have run over time a bit, so thank you all to who's still here. We will share the recording. Oh, there was a prize. Hey, everybody that's still here. I was supposed to announce this earlier.
Yeah,
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
So the first 10 people that send an email over to me, and maybe my colleague Jeroen can send the email in the chat. The first 10 people that send it to me will be able to have like a special one-on-one session with one of our Pointerpro experts to talk about your interest or your use case for the distribution portal and really dig into how we can really, if and how it can help your business. So a free one-on-one consulting session, let's say.
Yeah, to discuss these use cases.
Exactly.
The fact that you gave it at the end only makes it more
Yeah. The people at the beginning didn't even know about it. It's fine. But of course, even if you're not the first 10, please get in touch with us. If you want to learn more, we have a landing page on our site about the distribution portal. So yeah, very exciting new product. Do you have anything else to say?
I don't think so. I think we said all we set out to do. So I think, I'm very curious to hear the responses and see the emails come in, especially with all the different use cases and see what people are actually going to start using the distribution portal for. Having these new integrations is really exciting, at least from a techie point of view. It's super exciting to see.
Questions about technical things, go to this one.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you all. And hope to be in touch soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.